If you've started playing Outbound and felt that your energy simply evaporates too quickly, you're not alone. In the beginning, it feels like the game tries to limit you at every turn, and any small mistake turns into a major problem to keep everything running. But the truth is that Outbound has several hidden mechanics, some of them poorly explained, that can practically turn your energy into something infinite, or at least close to it. So get ready, because after this video, running out of energy will never be a problem again. I'm Mary, and the video is starting now. If there's a habit that slows down your progress, it's continuing to burn wood in the bioburner after the early game. I did this for too long, thinking it was normal to rely on it. But in reality, I was just wasting one of the most important resources in the game. Wood isn't just easy fuel. It goes into almost everything you want to build and upgrade in the van. When you start using it to generate energy all the time, you end up stalling your own advancement without realizing it, because you'll always lack material for crafting. The turning point is understanding that the bioburner is a temporary solution. It works well at the beginning, when you don't have the structure yet. But as soon as you set up a system with solar and wind energy, the logic changes completely. You no longer need to burn resources to stay running. After I abandoned this habit, the game became much more balanced. Wood started to pile up, upgrades flowed better, and energy stopped depending on constant sacrifice. In Outbound, evolving is also knowing when to stop using certain solutions that have already served their purpose. A lot of my energy simply vanished for a reason that wasn't obvious at all: the weight of the van. I was focused on generating more energy, when in fact, the problem was how much I was demanding from it. There came a point where I had so much stuff accumulated, furniture, resources, equipment, that the van practically became a truck. And the heavier it gets, the more energy it consumes, especially during travel and climbs. It's that kind of detail the game doesn't rub in your face, but it makes all the difference. When I started lightening this load, everything changed. I started leaving less important items at the base or at specific points on the map, and I started using the dog's backpack better to carry what I really needed during expeditions. Just that significantly reduced consumption without needing to mess with energy generation. After this adjustment, the van became lighter, more efficient, and much more economical. It's almost as if you were gaining energy just by organizing better what you carry. In Outbound, sometimes the solution isn't to produce more. It's simply to stop carrying what is slowing you down. There's a detail in Outbound that seems simple but completely changes your energy consistency. Stop relying on a single source. At the start, I thought just placing a solar panel would solve everything, until night fell and I realized my van simply stopped working the way I wanted. That's when I understood the real secret: combining different energy sources. In Outbound, the sun doesn't shine at night and the wind doesn't always appear during the day. But curiously, often when the sun disappears, the wind starts to blow stronger. Once you realize this, everything starts to make sense. When you combine solar energy with wind energy, you create a much more stable system. During the day, the panels handle everything smoothly. When night arrives, the turbines kick in and keep your battery charging. It's like you're always one step ahead of the game without those power drops that break the rhythm of exploration. Once I started using the sun plus wind combo, energy stopped being a constant worry. The van simply works all the time, and you gain absurd freedom to explore without thinking twice. It's the kind of small adjustment that completely transforms the experience. At first, I was constantly worried about energy, avoiding using anything in the van, always afraid of running out of battery in the middle of exploration. It was almost as if I was playing in economy mode the entire time, until I discovered this. The tip is simple but powerful. Prioritize solar and wind energy as soon as possible. Seriously, make this your top priority in the research tree. As soon as you unlock and install solar panels and wind turbines on the roof of your van, the game feels like something else. You stop surviving and actually start enjoying the journey. The reason is brilliant in its simplicity. Solar panels work during the day, and wind turbines continue generating energy at night. In other words, together they cover the full 24-hour cycle without you spending absolutely anything to keep it running. You can go out to explore, sleep, relax, and your van is there, accumulating energy on its own. If there's one tip you need to take away, it's this. Don't ignore the energy system at the start of the game. Go after these two technologies as soon as you can and install them on the roof. After that, Outbound becomes much lighter, much freer, and you'll never be desperate for battery again. There's a mistake I made for a long time that can end all your progress without you realizing it. Using the biomass generator as your main energy source. At first, it seems practical. You throw wood in, see the energy rising, and think you've solved the problem. But in practice, this turns into a trap. The biomass generator wasn't designed to power your van the entire time. It's an emergency resource. When you start relying on it, you enter a bad cycle of burning wood and fiber constantly, exactly the materials you need most for crafting and upgrades. The turning point for me was treating the power unit as a plan B, not the base of my energy. You know those moments when you're stuck, out of battery, or need a quick boost to get out of a difficult situation? That's where it shines. Other than that, the less you use it, the better. After I stopped wasting resources on the generator, my progress became much more stable. I always had material left to build and evolve the van without that feeling of always being at the limit. In Outbound, knowing when not to use a system is just as important as knowing how to use it, and the biomass generator is the best example of this. One thing the game doesn't explain so clearly, but which makes all the difference in Outbound, is that there isn't a single energy solution that works everywhere. It took me a while to realize this, and for a long time, I was carrying equipment that simply didn't make sense for the region I was in. The real secret here is adapting to the current map. Each area of the game has its own conditions, and if you ignore that, you end up wasting space, resources, and inefficiency. When I reached the canyon, for example, I was still trying to use everything I had unlocked, and nothing seemed to work right. That's when it hit me. The canyon is a dry environment with practically no support for water-based energy, so it makes zero sense to keep water turbines there. The best you can do is simplify. Focus entirely on solar and wind energy, which work perfectly in that type of climate. When I started adjusting my build according to the environment, everything became more efficient. Less useless junk, more consistent energy, and a much greater sense of control over the van. In Outbound, it's not just about having the best tools, but about using the right tools in the right place. If you really want to feel like you have infinite energy, there's no point in just focusing on generating energy. You need to learn to spend it better too. And that's exactly what changed the way I play when I started investing in battery and engine upgrades. Exploring signal towers became a priority for me because that's where you find floppy disks and important materials. At first, I ignored this, thinking it was just secondary content. But in practice, these upgrades make more difference than they seem. They're the kind of quiet progress you only notice when everything starts to flow better. When you increase battery capacity, you feel an immediate relief. You can store more energy and stop living on the edge. But the real impact comes when you upgrade the engine. Climbs stop being that nightmare that drains everything in seconds, and the van consumes much less energy overall. After I made this adjustment, it felt like my energy lasted twice as long even without changing my sources. It's that type of optimization that doesn't draw attention at first, but completely transforms the experience. In Outbound, it's not just about generating more energy, it's about making every unit of energy worth much more. I only realized this after several hours of playing. It wasn't a lack of energy. It was waste. My van generated well, but even so, the battery never seemed to last. There was always something consuming power in the background without me paying attention. The reality is that several crafting stations continue pulling energy even when you aren't using them. Chainsaws, presses, they stay on, working in the void, slowly draining your battery. And since this isn't so obvious, you only feel the impact when you've already lost too much. The change came when I started treating the van almost like a system that needs to be managed the entire time. Going out to explore? Turn off what isn't essential. Spending time without crafting? Same thing. This simple habit reduces absurd consumption without you needing to produce more. After that, it feels like energy simply lasts longer. Not because you produce more, but because you stopped throwing away what you already have. In Outbound, efficiency isn't just about building better. It's about paying attention to the small leaks happening the whole time. There was a moment when I realized the problem wasn't just energy, it was logistics. I wanted to explore further, get more resources, but I always ended up limited by inventory space. It was that feeling of always leaving things behind. That's when I started taking the dog with me with more intention, not just for company, but what he actually offers. Many people ignore this at first, but he has his own compartment, basically an extra backpack that completely changes the rhythm of exploration. In practice, this means you can carry much more material without needing to go back to the van all the time. And this directly impacts your energy too, because you reduce unnecessary trips, avoid wasting resources for nothing, and optimize every expedition much better. After I started using the dog this way, my runs became much more efficient. I came back with much more material, made more progress in less time, and felt like I was enjoying every outing more. In Outbound, sometimes the solution isn't in generating more, but in carrying better what you can already bring back. Respect the day and night cycle as if it were part of the main gameplay, because deep down, it is. This is that type of detail many people ignore at the beginning, but when you understand the rhythm of the game, everything becomes much lighter and more natural. I, honestly, think the best way to play is to take advantage of the day to travel more when you already have more solar panels working, because that's when the van performs better and you aren't wasting resources. The feeling changes quite a bit when you stop trying to do everything in a rush and start thinking about the flow of energy as part of the journey. And when the generators are filling the battery in the background, I really enjoy using that moment to stop, explore, and do other things without rush. Outbound has a very calm vibe, almost as if the game is telling you to breathe, look at the scenery, and only move forward when it makes sense. In the end, this secret isn't about a hack. It's about rhythm, driving by day when your structure is performing better, and exploring when the energy is recovering. This is exactly what makes Outbound work so well. You get into the mood of the road, feel the progression happening organically, and realize you don't need to fight against the system, just learn how to play along with it.